Oops, I messed it up. All right, here we go. Hey, friends, welcome back to yet another exciting episode of Friends of the Squared Circle. I'm your host, Cradder Q, a.k.a. my real name. Now, we still have the reigning, defending champion here, Randy and Alex. Yes, we're sick of talking about him. Hopefully one day someone can bring him down. Today in studio, we have our friend Eric. We also want to give a huge shout out to Superior Creations, who supplied us with some amazing tumblers at our vendor table. You can see the wrestlers there with all their custom tumblers there. You can get yours at facebook.com/Superior Creations for all your custom tumbler needs. And a huge shout out to Hornswoggle as well as Rikishi for those beautiful pictures. Eric, how the hell are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I am having a good day. I'm so glad we got this lined up. I know TikTok's a little harder to communicate on, but you're a new friend, and I cannot be more excited to have a new friend on. Talk wrestling. It's always a good time when we get to talk wrestling. So,
oh, absolutely. Wrestling's been in my life for a long, long time. So I'm always glad to talk about it.
Yeah, since I've had the podcast, I'm sure everybody in my circle is sick of hearing me talk about it, but I'm grinding to get to that 600 mark. We're so close, and that's the next goal is 600. So
awesome.
So we'll just dive right into it. What's your first earliest memories of wrestling?
I'm 37, so probably
Same.
Watching the Saturday Night Main Event. That was kind of the big thing for me. WWF back then was what we watched. Being in the Midwest, we didn't get WCW a lot. I didn't grow up with cable or anything, so
same. Yep.
So WWF was it. WWE now, so I don't get sued here, but. It's what I grew up watching Hulk Hogan, the Mega Powers, the Ultimate Warrior, all that kind of stuff. That's what I grew up watching. That's what made me love professional wrestling.
And such iconic characters. I know we talk about them a lot on here. People are probably sick of it, but it's hard to get people from that era before trying to get them to work their phones. Gotta make fun of my sponsor there, Keith. He's old. He was on an episode, and we went back to the AWA days, and I remember watching those after I got older. And there's some good stuff in there, like Nick Bockwinkel, a young Kurt Hennig, the Road Warriors coming through, Ric Flair, Andre the Giant. I didn't know those names until I saw them later in either WWE or WCW.
Yeah, it's fun to look back and see, how a lot of those guys started and just watch, how they evolved, how they went from smaller promotions, the territories back then to primetime wrestling, where they were on our screen every single Monday or Saturday or whenever you got a chance to watch them.
Yeah, and I feel kind of like now, like it's starting to get into that sense where we're getting states that are booming, like Minneapolis we always talk about because that's just in our backyard here at Friends of the Squared Circle, as well as New York. They got a nice wrestling scene. California, it's booming so much. You got AEW down there in Jacksonville, WWE still in Connecticut, but there's so much wrestling out there. Fans today are so lucky. I'm sure you can relate to this of just finding, a magazine or a random VHS at your local video store that you were able to catch up on things, but you had to wait months for that stuff to come out, and kids today have it right at their fingertips.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the hotline. You could call into the hotline and talk about that.
That's great. That's a great callback.
So my grandma bought me the subscription to the WWF magazine, and I probably have that 4 years of that. So it's all sitting in a box somewhere in my basement. My son, he's gone through it. He loves looking at the old stuff. So it's fun to see the nostalgia, but that's what we grew up on. So it's hard to call it nostalgia to me.
Yeah, and then, going back to the internet, like my dad, he was complaining because his computer wasn't working, and he's like, well, you grew up on the internet. I'm like, no, dude, I was in middle school when I was on the internet. I was already a quarter of my life gone. We learned email, and I think in 7th or 8th grade. And it's funny, that's how that ties to wrestling is I like the Giant growing up because I believe that he was Andre's son. my first email was Paul White 1000 because all the other Paul Whites were taken. So the teacher's like, just add numbers behind it. So I was like, well, 1,000,
Yeah.
and that was my first email because I didn't want people knowing my name because he was telling us about, all the cybersecurities. People can steal your identity. So I was using a wrestler's real name as my first email, paulwhite1000 at hotmail.com.
There
That
you
was pretty
go.
cool.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just funny. So in those first few memories, was there any wrestlers that stood out that you really liked, that you really hated, or that you were afraid of?
I remember actually the first event that I went to. This is kind of a funny story, and I kind of forgot about it until my mom told me. We went. I live in Iowa, so not
Okay.
too far from Minnesota. We went to Veterans Memorial Auditorium and watched Hulk Hogan and King Kong Bundy in a steel cage match.
Oh,
And I
nice.
thought I would be the only person there. Like I was 5 or 6. Like
Hmm.
that was the first event I ever went to. I don't remember a whole lot about it. Don't remember much of the card, but I just remember the awe of, wow, all these people are here to watch wrestling just like me.
Yeah,
Um,
oops, sorry, go ahead.
as far as people who stuck out, guys like Andre the Giant, just larger
Mhm.
than life. King Kong Bundy in that regard too.
Yep.
The big guys, they were the immovable objects. They were beating up everybody, and then
Hmm.
you got your main events where you got Hulk Hogan finally getting to take on Andre the Giant. And I remember watching that on tape later and just being in awe.
Yeah, I definitely am jealous. I mean, I know Hogan's stuff now, but we always try to look at the characters, not their, real personas outside the ring because it ruins our childhood as well as our hearts. Because some
Yeah.
of them are jerks out there. But yeah, Hulk Hogan definitely for me was one of the first action figures I got. I got it from my uncle. I didn't understand anything about wrestling. That was like in the '80s booms with you got the Rambos, you got the Terminators, huge stars like Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone, and then there's Hulk Hogan. Now Ryan's going to eat me alive for that comparison, but those were like the icons of action movies. But then Hogan was just as large as them in a sense for marketing. You know, even with Michael Jordan in the '90s, like it's just so comparable to me, anyways. But
Yeah. Hogan was kind of the thing, especially when, like I said, we didn't get WCW.
mhm.
And in the early '90s, it wasn't a comparison type thing either. But getting to watch Hulk Hogan and just feeding into every word that man said. Say your prayers and take your
Yep,
vitamins. Like
yep,
it still sticks in my head. Years later, but that's how iconic he was to wrestling, and that's why it's hard for us as fans to sit there and
yep.
go, man, watching Hogan now is very difficult.
Mhm.
But watching him in his prime, the big boot, the leg drop, 1, 2, 3, every
Yep,
time. You knew it
yep.
was coming, but you still appreciated it.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting goosebumps. So thinking of those classic matches, R.I.P. the Iron Sheik. Another thing with the internet and social media that is kind of daunting to wrestling now is, the fans are always fighting AEW or WWE. It's always a contest, but we peel back that curtain and we see who they really are, and it kind of ruins the mystique. Like when you have, say, Ronda and Charlotte fighting, but then you see them backstage doing like photos and making funny videos, and it kind of ruins the mystique for me a little bit. Not saying that I, you know, don't want them to do that, but it's nice to know just the character, and not see what they're doing outside of the ring.
Yeah,
I
kayfabe.
understand they're people too, but I want to keep the mystery alive so that way, I'm intrigued more to continue to watch.
Yeah, kayfabe is very, very. I mean, it's still there, but it's so
Mhm.
hard to differentiate the character from the person. And there's a few guys who still do it well.
Mhm.
MJF's one who
Yeah.
you watch the meet and greets, and he's a prick.
Yep.
And he does it great. Like he's one of the younger guys who's fun to watch. But I can't imagine how much tape he watched of guys before him or how
Mhm.
much he feeds off Chris Jericho.
Yep.
Pick his brain every chance he gets. Just he's so hot on the mic.
Yep.
It's fun to watch.
Yeah, and he definitely, like you said, with those videos that come out, that's helping him, get more eyes on him as well, being, that character. I I don't know if I saw him at a show or not. I've been to so many down in Minneapolis that they all blur together half the time. But I'm always wondering who's on the card, and then there's like the other guys that I try to meet again the second time. But now my rule is to meet everybody, shake hands, so that way I can say I've met people. But yeah, he definitely gets a lot of eyes on him for the things he says. It's to me, swearing on TV is a little much, but that's his thing. I'll give him that. But yeah, he definitely is one of the top heels all around right now.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, and seeing AEW kind of open that door up a little bit more and let people get away with a little bit more. It kind of ties back to CM Punk and the pipe bomb. Like,
yep,
that was kind of the end of the Attitude Era, and it kind of went away. And AEW is kind of prying that back open just a little bit, which is okay for me. I still want it to be family friendly. I've got kids who watch wrestling, but there's got to be a little bit in it for us adults too, who go,
exactly.
all right, yeah, that reminds me of my childhood and watching, somebody go off on the mic.
Yep. And then I know like Road Warrior Animal had said too when we met him in Chicago that if he's catering to the kids, why is it on so late? These kids are staying up all night, to watch this, but yet you're falling off in the third thing. But like you said, maybe that last bit could be for the adults so that you're keeping them entertained till they get to that,
Yeah, especially when you've got 2 or 3 hour shows, sometimes you need that last 15 minutes, where it's a bloody mess, and you expect the unexpected at that point.
Oh yeah, yep, definitely, I agree with that. Was there any wrestlers that you just couldn't stand that just rubbed you the wrong way?
There was probably some. Nothing really comes to mind. I just appreciated the art of it when I was younger.
Yeah, I know I didn't like $1 Million Man because he had stole Sweet Sapphire from Dusty Rhodes, and that's when I was still in like this stuff is real phase, and I was so angry because I had the SummerSlam match where it was Road Warrior, Ultimate Warrior, and Rick Rude, and they did the cutscene where they went to the back where Ted DiBiase was stealing Sapphire. And I hated him. Like, and I got to meet him, and I was like, I just want you to know, 8-year-old Cal was so pissed at you. It is an honor to meet you, but I want to tell you right now, I despised you growing up because of what you did to Dusty Rhodes, so.
Yeah.
And that's like one of the few moments that I can say that I was so sucked in that everything else was a blur around me. But that moment, where it was like so real that I felt so bad for Dusty because he's running down that tunnel, trying to stop him. So,
yeah.
I was always a huge Rhodes family guy back in the day. So, still am. So,
I was to say it's fun to watch that legacy continue.
Mm-hmm. Are you hoping Dustin might, jump over to WWE before he finally calls it quits, or you think he'll? This is a hard-hitting question that he might just wrap it up after AEW.
I think he's got one more run in WWE. I really do. I think, especially with Triple H being in charge, as much as people want to say Vince is always going to have a hand in it. Let's face it, he built the empire.
Yeah.
But I think you give somebody who's paid their dues like Dustin.
Exactly, for 20
you give them time in WWE and let them finish their career how they want to.
Yeah, and then especially everything that's going on with Cody is I personally like it. I know a lot of people are sick of it, but it's just like let it build up. But yeah, it'd be nice a little send off for Dustin, for being that, longevity in the business, a nice proper send off. To work with Cody before he goes, put him in the Hall of Fame. I know people don't like that either because it's not real, but it's still an honor to say you're a Hall of Famer. It means your booking prices go up and your autographs are a little bit more, so and I've met Dustin twice. First time I met him, I was so nervous I couldn't even talk. I didn't catch those in previous episodes, people. And then same with Cody, I was a little nervous, but I was able to muster through that one a lot better. So
yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited to see what I like where the story goes. Then I'll judge the whole storyline. That's why I'm kind of excited to see what's going on with the Bloodline or the Usos. And same with Cody. Like, how is that going to lead to where he's going?
Yeah, and I think for the younger fans, it's hard for them to see the long term storytelling. Like
Mhm.
we watch stories played out for years, and then you
Yep.
finally get the result, and you're like, oh, like that's not what I expected, but
Yep.
that's one way to go with it. I
And
think the
definitely,
hardest thing watching wrestling now, and it's really nitpicky for me. I don't
Mhm.
watch as much as I want to, but storytelling is not what it used to be.
Yep.
It's gets a quick payoff, gets a big pop, and let's go another direction.
Yep.
But the bloodline has been done beautifully. Like
Yes.
it's a work of art, and whether people want to appreciate it now or they want to appreciate it in 10 years, they're gonna look at it and go, "Wow, we watched something that came from nothing,
Yep.
and this is what we're getting." The Civil War at Money in the Bank should be a
Mhm.
great match.
Yeah, and it's the first one in a long time that I've been really invested in. Um, because it is something that has progressed, and each week you want to see what happens. It's like any other TV show, like Game of Thrones or Grey's Anatomy. I don't know where that one came from, but you want to see what's happening on the next episode. It makes you want to tune in. Um, and it's only elevating everyone that's on screen. And I don't care who says it, but like, when people lose, they're still getting exposure and they're still getting the rub, even though they're taking the loss.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah.
Mhm.
And we wanted Roman as a heel for years, and we
Mhm.
got him, I think, at the right time.
Yep.
Because he's just elevated so many people. Like Sami Zayn was kind of just
Yep.
pushed off into no man's land,
Yep.
and bringing him into that storyline was phenomenal.
Yep.
And how it all unfolded, just it was must watch TV on Fridays. SmackDown became the A show without a doubt in
Mhm.
my mind.
Yep. And same with titles too. Like, there was a period in time where titles were switching so often, where people always say it means nothing, but then when we put the strap on for a month or two, then people are like, oh, well, they've had the title long enough, or they've had it too much. It's like, okay, you're just complaining because it flip flop. Now you're complaining because it's on too long. Like, what's the correct formula? And I'm sure you've played video games like I play video games and wrestling. Your champion's champion all the time. Like, you never lose it. You're keeping that thing for you don't purposely lose it so that you can win it back. I don't know anybody that probably does that. If you do,
Right.
please comment. I want to get you on here and ask you why. But I know, like, when I play as Otis, I've got 2 belts with him right now, and I'm not about to just um, lose so that I can chase it again. No, like, I'm going to keep that thing for the record-setting 7 years, or
Yeah.
I'm not going to have 25 championships. I'm going to have one that's 7 years, But it's just so funny to hear fans complain that someone's had the title too long, or when they beat somebody, oh, they're buried. No, they got that main event spotlight so that you could know their name, and then when they come around again, you're going to be excited that they're the champion, or that they're in the championship match again.
Yeah.
There's yeah.
And people will complain, well, Charlotte Flair is always in the main event for the
Mm-hmm.
women's, and it's like, you don't think she earned it? Yeah, she's got the name, but
Yep.
you don't get there without a skill set. She's
Yeah.
a great worker.
Yeah. And I told my buddy too, I'm like, you have to think of it this side too, like that Charlotte Flair being a Flair, it's part of the gimmick that she has to have these title runs. So when you run off the accolades at the next pay-per-view, where they're like the 8-time Raw champion, the 9-time SmackDown champion, the 2, then they can go off this legacy versus, oh, she's only been champion once and I'm supposed to take her serious and she's a Flair.
Exactly.
It's little things like that people aren't putting into the pie that make sense. They're just seeing, oh, she just lost it at the last pay-per-view and she's winning it again. Well, yeah, because then when they bring that video package back for next year and say Charlotte's facing off against someone else, they can say, well, last year at Money in the Bank, she lost her title. She's here to reclaim it 1 year later. They're setting up for the future, and we're watching now. And like this bloodline thing, like you said, a few years down the line, it's all going to make sense in these video packages.
Yeah. Yep.
It's going to have that effect. And I always go back to the Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair thing. I say it all the time on here. She got squashed in that 27 seconds of Becky coming back. A year later, Bianca won that title back, and it was a great match and a great story,
Yep. And
But we had to
that's,
wait a year for the payoff,
yeah, and it's worth it for that year payoff though. That's what that's what a lot of people don't understand. It's like if you just switch back and forth between two people every other pay-per-view, it gets stale. But give
Yep.
that year long, chase.
Yep.
The chase for Bianca Belair is great.
Mm-hmm. And the only one I feel bad for was Asuka, because I'm always rooting for Asuka at WrestleMania. But she goes out there. I think she's one of those girls that just says, yep, I got you. Let's go. But I only felt bad because she lost at another WrestleMania, and then obviously she's got it now. But she is phenomenal at what she does as well, and kind of scary.
Oh,
So.
absolutely. I remember the first time I went to an NXT event when they first started the traveling stuff, and Asuka came out, and I really hadn't watched a whole lot of NXT. And just hearing the crowd chant, Asuka's going to kill you, and just seeing how everybody was so intimidated, and it feels like sometimes they lose that killer instinct when they come to the main roster. Yeah, it's a shame. I know you can't push everybody,
exactly.
But Nakamura had a phenomenal run in NXT, and he deserves a run on the main roster without a doubt.
Yeah. And I know injuries have played in part in that, and then they kept, and then the championship tag team stuff with the guy he was tagging with got injured at WrestleMania. Yeah. But yeah, definitely, I'd like to see him with a strap. He would be a fun one, out there. I know when he won the Royal Rumble against AJ, it got a lot of buzz, but then, he's just kind of faltered since. But yeah, those two are definitely phenomenal when they were in NXT. I got to agree with you there.
Yeah, they were.
And they were like, big names, coming from another country at the time where there wasn't a lot of that representation from, Japan or, China. I'm not sure exactly where they're from, but, giving that generation of young and up and coming wrestlers from that area to see like, oh, it is possible to get there, so.
Yeah, to be on the big stage. People forget that Nakamura faced Brock Lesnar in New Japan. So it's not like he wasn't a star before, but a lot of us don't get the chance to watch as much wrestling. I know I don't. I wish I could watch more, but it's hard to watch a New Japan show at 3:00 in the morning for me.
Right. Yeah, especially with these pay-per-views that have been in different countries. Yeah. I mess up with time zones. I think that's one thing I asked you when we were chatting. What's your time zone? Because I'm getting better, but I always forget. Okay, it's on at 6 tonight, and then I'll go to put it on. And it's like, please wait. Replay will be uploaded shortly. I'm like, oh, that's right. They're in London. Gotta wait. So then I gotta wait another hour so I can watch the pay-per-view again. But so then I gotta stay off social media. So, but back to you. Now, was there a time where you kind of fell out of wrestling as you got older, or have you kind of just watched it straight through childhood till now?
I would say probably my teenage years and my early 20s. I kind of fell off. It wasn't even that wrestling was boring. It just it didn't captivate me. I went to college and other things became important. I'd still watch every now and then, but I really think, and it's crazy, Bray Wyatt kind of brought me back into it with the Wyatt family.
Oh, okay.
And just that character was something we hadn't seen before.
Right.
He was essentially a cult leader. And just the Wyatt family, I think they're really underappreciated. To see, what Luke Harper did, rest in peace. The man was phenomenal, and I don't think we appreciated him enough.
Can you imagine, like if Brody Lee was still with us, and Mox was still in WWE, if he jumped over just for again the bloodline versus the Wyatts? I always thought they should have put the Viking Raiders in there instead of kind of going with the Viking Raiders just because they already had the big beards. I know it's stupid, easy booking, but that's two other big brutes that can go. That's a tag team I would like to see do better, but it just seems they can't get over with the fans. And then that I play that it's the fans. It's not, people writing for them. Just, they're kind of stale on this roster, unfortunately. But I thought that would have been great to have a couple more, people in there, helping Bray because, he was dealing with Strowman and, when they have their kind of little cracks there. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy booking because they have big beards, but, they would have fit in just, those big guys that can go,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They would
Brody
have been a
Lee,
great
man.
addition.
They need to spotlight him. I know, like after he passed, they probably don't want to use it as a money grab or something, but he needs a DVD set because he had some phenomenal singles matches there in WWE.
Yeah, he did.
I know one of them where he was the Intercontinental Champion, and I just was like, holy cow. They're going to repackage this guy kind of like JBL. That's what I kept thinking in my head. They're going to clean him up, trim the beard, put him in a suit, and he is going to be just a mega heel. And
Yeah.
then next thing you know, he left the company and AEW started. And I was like, oh, okay. And then obviously we know what happened. But I think big things were on the rise for him over there. He could have been one of their top guys. And he probably was their top guy, So
yeah, I agree.
Whew. Talking a mile a minute here. So as you got back into wrestling, was there anybody that kind of sucked you back in besides Bray Wyatt? For me, it was Randy Orton. Besides the Wyatts, was there anybody else that you really got into when you came back?
Randy Orton was a big one. Yeah. Watching him evolve, going through evolution, the Legend Killer.
Oh yeah, that was my favorite.
Watching him come through and just take on anybody and everybody, and I hope he comes back healthy. He's one. I think he'd be the one to break Flair's record. If there's anybody right now, he would be the one that I would pick. I know people are like, well, Cena, but Cena's he's kind of on the tail end, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
And people need to appreciate every time they get to watch Cena. I know the one person that I never got to see live was The Undertaker. And
okay.
When they come through Des Moines, we'd get SmackDown, and Undertaker was doing limited shows at that point. The one thing that I do remember is I got to see Sting in the ring for the first time in a WWE ring.
Okay.
He came down from the rafters, and I screamed like a little girl. I still have the video, but
That's
awesome.
awesome.
It was the first time I took my son to an event. We sat middle of the first deck and got some amazing matches. But watching Sting come out of the rafters, I was like, wow, something I never thought would happen, and then just being able to see it live was something I'll never forget.
And what's great with that too, Eric, is that you can pass that on to him and just say, oh my gosh, let me show you how he started to where he was here, and then he went to TNA, and like that. That's passing the torch. Like that meme that came out with Undertaker when he retired, when the little kid saw him come out, was cheering, and then it was the dad with his kid. Like that's you getting to pass that on, and that is so cool. Yeah. I don't have any kids. I got 3 cats, so my life is crazy. But one day if I do have a kid, like I told the wife, Randy, take a shot. We're finally there. That I was like, I'm going to buy action figures for them and me so we can play together. And she just laughs, because I don't play with them. They just sit there. But if I have a kid, you bet your old man's going to be down there, oh, let me tell you about Stone Cold or my favorite Gold Dust. And you better like Gold Dust. That's all I got to say. Or I'll let my daughter play with action figures, I'll have to play Barbies too, but hey, dad'll be there with his, wrestlers. So.
Yeah. And my son's got all my old wrestlers too. And I wish some of them were still in packages, but it's so fun. He's 14 now, so he's kind of getting to that stage. He still likes to get one every now and then and be like, man, I'm just going to hang that on my wall, which is fine with me. But, I remember the times where we'd have 3 rings set up and we'd go back and forth, and it was fun, tell them about, hey, this is how this guy started. And then, having YouTube is great for kids now.
Right.
It's a blessing and a curse because.
Yeah. I want to watch them open toys. Go to your room.
Right. Yeah. Go on your own TV. We don't have time for this here.
This one, I'm going to put my godson on the hot seat here. I remember he was like 7 or 8. He's got the TV going with some cartoon. He's got his tablet going at the same time, and then he's like drawing, and I'm like, pick one, buddy, because like I'm trying to fall asleep on the couch here. I spend the night at my buddy's house, and he's got all this stuff going, and then he's just like, I'm watching all of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I actually had him on the second episode here, so it's kind of fun to get his inkling of wrestling, because every time we'd go over there, he'd have the WWE game and he would want to play the Royal Rumbles, and that's what we would play for hours.
Yeah.
And I will put it on the internet, and it will stay there forever. I whooped his ass from first to last with Randy Orton, and I made him cry. Yes, Harley, you cried. You can deny it all you want. And everyone was like, "Do you feel proud?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've never went from 1 to 40 or
Right.
whatever it is." Like,
Yeah.
he was not taking this moment from me. I'm not letting the kid win because he's the kid, And he is such a button masher. He's so good at that game. His reflexes on it is just crazy. But yeah, I will say that I made a kid cry playing a wrestling game because I was selfish and had to win the Royal Rumble. So
As they say, to be the man, you got to beat the man.
that's right. Woo, Ric Flair. Yeah. Yeah. So you kind of mentioned your son getting out of it. Have you guys been to any indie shows together? Is there a big indie scene in Iowa?
We get PW Revolver comes through.
Okay. Yep.
Usually it's been weekends that I work, and
Okay.
the thing is, usually it coincides with a GCW event being somewhere in the Midwest.
Okay.
So we get Moxley and stuff like that.
Nice.
Every now and then. I know last one we had Masha Slamovich, which she's been fun to watch. I love watching her on Impact. But seeing some of these rising stars come through is really fun. I hope to make it to one here soon. I know they alternate a lot between Ohio and Des Moines, which is fun. But I haven't been to an event in a few years, actually.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm a huge indie guy. As this comes out, I've already would have done a couple vendor tables. I had a couple local shows here in Duluth, as well as Minneapolis is just a couple hours away from me, so it's easy for me just to jump in the car and go. They announced they're going back to the Mall of America for the second time. They went last year, the year before. It was the first time in 27 years that wrestling had been at the Mall of America. We may or may not be there. I don't know. That's kind of up in the air right now. We're trying to decide what we're doing. But
yeah,
I know Rugged Pro is down in wrestling in Iowa. I'm not sure where they're out of, but I know the name. They're going to be coming up to Duluth here as well to do a show. But I know Joey Avalon. He's a local guy out of Wisconsin. Him and Sierra. But I was talking about them as well. They've been going down that way in Iowa as well. So if you hear those two names, Joey and Sierra, that's one to watch, because those that's a power couple right there. Sierra is probably like the best in the Midwest right now. Joey, tags with her, or he's just out there and he's putting in the work, putting in the boots. Like he's like slimmed down. He's getting toned and he's everywhere. It's great. So
yeah,
two names to look out for, because Sierra's probably going to be signed by next year by either AEW, Impact, who knows. Cora Jade was Elena Black out of Chicago. She was around this area.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard of Top Flight in AEW.
Yep.
They're out of Minneapolis, as well as Billy Starks is around somewhere here. Yeah, Sky Blue. I mean, there's a lot of names that have come through, probably your area too. That rhymed. But I love the indies. I highly suggest you get out there. It's fun, when you can. Work comes first, obviously, but I think you'd have fun. Then you can always fan on my stickers.
I always check out the cards and see some of the matchups, and I'm like, wow, I really need to make it. Like just watching Sami Callihan and Moxley team up for the first time in 10 years. That happened back in Des Moines a few months ago. So it's fun to see history like that kind of come back through. Underrated teams and watch how big they are now, and just be like, wow, we need to appreciate all aspects of what Moxley's done.
Yeah, I'm definitely kicking myself for not meeting Chad Gable in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Basically, I just met Ken Anderson, Matt Hardy, and a couple other guys, and that was before I made the rule. Got to meet everybody, shake hands with everybody, because
Yeah.
you never know who you're going to meet. So
Yep. I remember when I was younger, I got to meet Macho Man. That's probably the big one for me.
that is so cool.
Yeah, and it was an adventure store. Like they set up a signing, and I was disappointed Miss Elizabeth wasn't there, but
Yeah,
meeting Macho Man was still one of the coolest things.
that is so cool.
Yeah.
Have you met any other wrestlers? Any name drops you want to throw
Jeff
out there?
Jarrett is one of the other ones
Nice.
that I met.
I love Jeff Jarrett. Anybody that says they don't, sorry, I love him.
Yeah, you got to
It'd be
respect
good.
what he's done.
Yep.
It's quite the legacy.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, no, I really haven't.
Okay.
I always want to. We went and saw Fozzy in concert. I wanted to meet Chris Jericho then.
Nice.
My son was tired. It was his first concert too, so getting to see Chris Jericho was kind of a double thing for him, being a wrestling fan and a music fan. So
yeah, I liked him all the way back in WCW. I don't get to watch AEW too much. I try to catch some clips on YouTube, or there's a couple of TikTokers that'll put the key components on, and I love watching those, so then I can kind of see what's going on over there. I'm a huge fan of Max the Impaler. She's on Impact, and not Impact. What is it called? Man, I'm a wrestling podcast host, and I don't even know the name of the show. Oh, NWA Power.
Yep.
And she was down in, I think, Iowa, doing like the Impact that they had, some wrestling promotion down there. But yeah, Max the Impaler, she scares me. She does like a wasteland type character. Her and Heidi Hightower do like post-apocalypse, and it was so funny when we met her. She's like, "Oh, do you guys want pictures?" And then she's like, "Oh, I mean, roar," and I was trying not to laugh because she was trying to sell her merch. But yeah, definitely they is I always mess up on that. Sorry if I mess up on the pronouns, Max. But yeah, I definitely love anything that's out there if they got unique characters and stuff. But yeah, now I'm stumbling because I feel like a jerk for messing up my pronouns, but such is life. At least I acknowledge it so that I'm not a real a-hole. But
I need to make it to more independent shows. I know that for sure. I know we've got 3XW down here in Des Moines as well.
Okay.
And Des Moines is probably about half an hour for me. So I work there, so there's really no excuse to not make it to a show. But I know they've got James Storm coming on the next show.
James Storm from TNA?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yep. I just remembered. I got to give a shout out to Austin Bayless. He's a wrestling promoter down there. Central Empire Wrestling, Wellman, Iowa. If that rings a bell.
I'm not sure where that's at, actually.
Okay, I'll have to send you the link or something.
Yeah.
I forgot I had his phone number and card in there. He sells. I wish I had it now to show you turnbuckles with like wrestlers on there, and I got a sweet Mark Henry one for $20.
Nice.
On there, and yeah, I like Mark Henry. That's another big guy that was really cool back in the 2000s and stuff. So
yeah.
Okay. So back to fandom. I know, like I said, we jumped on these rabbit holes and stuff. I kind of asked you off camera. You're kind of a collector. What type of things did you collect besides action figures?
So one of the other things that I have that I'm really proud of is my uncle who has passed away. He worked at the airport. He worked in Milwaukee, and then he worked down in Springfield, Missouri for a while. So when wrestlers would come through, he would get autographs for me. So I've got a sheet of, Jake the Snake, Honky Tonk Man, a lot of guys from the 80s and early 90s. So it's really cool. I've showed my son, he's like, well, who's that? And so then we have to go down the YouTube rabbit hole, and I have to show him, okay, well, here's Virgil. He came out with $1 Million Man for a while. But things like that, I've collected. When we go to NXT shows, I usually try to buy like the big poster that they have with the match card on it and stuff. I know I've got the one from the first time.
That's very cool.
That I went, and I actually have one for my kids too. So,
did you collect anything as
just action figures?
Okay.
We have a hard time getting action figures here in Des Moines. I don't know why, but Walmart and Target is always wiped out. So I'll get on some Ringside Collectibles and order stuff every now and then, or Like the latest one that I bought was like the Ultimate Kenny Omega
Oh,
at
okay,
Walmart. So
nice. Yeah, one that I got from my buddy Chad was that this bad boy here. Was he got this for me for my birthday? The blood one there.
oh yeah.
And I was buying the new Otis figure. Go figure, because I have a shrine to him here. And he's like, "What did you order off of Ringside?" I'm like, "Stuff." And he's like, "What did you order?" I'm like, "Why is he so persistent?" I'm like, "I ordered the new Otis action figure." He's like, "Okay, well, there's gonna be a package coming in a couple days for you." And the awesome guy that Chad is, I'll send you a video of his stuff after this. Bought me that for my birthday, and I always like to look on eBay what stuff's selling for. I don't flip anything, but it's $50 online. It was, and then people are selling it for 100 to 150 bucks, and I'm like,
Wow. Yeah.
whoo, yeah, and I got my other Dustin up here, the blue version as well as the red, because I wanted those because I'm a huge Gold Dust guy.
Yep.
Where these. Gotta show this off because again, there goes everything else. Just ignore that. But I read his book. This is when I met him. I fangirled out and told him I was nervous 9 times. I got it autographed. So that's a keepsake for myself. Yeah. And I hope Cody puts out a book so then I can finish the trifecta of books.
Oh yeah.
As well as I got that one autographed. I got this from my buddy Bob. Shout out to Bob. Always likes to one up me in the autograph game. Mostly what I get autographed is the books. That's what I like to get signed. I'll get 8x10s if it's a package deal for like an extra $5.
Right.
And then I'll either get it for myself or I'll just save it to trade somebody later. Like I had a Ric Flair autograph book I traded for, you're going to laugh, Black Rain, Awesome Kong autograph cards from TNA, which no one probably cares about Black Rain except for me because I'm a Dustin fan. And then he gave me, I think, an autograph of The Miz as well. So those are like some of my favorites. And I was like, hell yeah, you can have the Flair book for your father-in-law. And I just met Flair last year about this time. And Gilbert Brown was there from the Packers. And I'm a huge Gilbert Brown fan, not a Packer fan.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, Mr. Flair. Oh, Gilbert. And I gave Gilbert a hug and was telling him stories about when I was a little kid. Like Flair was an afterthought at that point. As soon as I saw Gilbert standing up there for the picture.
Yeah.
My buddy Chris, he was the one that loves Ric Flair. He got to meet his hero. So he was pretty excited and nervous. But, I was like, hey, man, it says we get a couple people in the picture. You can come with me, because I want to get my book signed again.
Yeah.
And then they signed the cover. I was kind of pissed about that. But what are you going to do? It's signed by Ric Flair now. So.
Yep.
Now I got to put it in a case and I can't read it. So, well, we'll wrap it up here. Is there anything else you want to add? Any socials you want to plug where people can find you if you don't have any? Any last thoughts or message for the universe?
No, just appreciate wrestling. If you want to go watch somebody, go watch them because we never know when the last time you're going to watch somebody is. And, just appreciate what we've got. It's love it or hate it, it's pro wrestling, and if you're watching it, there's something that captivates you, and just make sure you enjoy it.
Yep. And the one nice thing is that it does bring people together as well. Us being friends, new friends, and I think he froze up on us there, folks. We'll give it a second here, see if he bounces back. Are you back?
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah, okay, you froze up a little bit. I don't know if you were clowning me. That would be a good one if someone did that. But yes, wrestling brings friends together, and that's one thing I like about the name of my show is I drop it all the time. Thanks, friends. Eric, we can't thank you enough for being a friend of the Squared Circle, taking the time out of your day to come on my silly little show. I know you're new to the page and stuff, but I can't thank you enough. We might have to get you on here for a part 2. So,
I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on.
Perfect.
It's an honor.
All righty. We're going to play that beautiful video package for you here and hang out in the lounge for me after that video package. All right.
All right, sounds good.
I always forget to tell people that and then they run off. So, all right. Thanks, guys. All right. Here we go. Hey, friends, thanks for tuning in to yet another exciting episode of Friends of the Squared Circle, where I'm your host, Crander Q, a.k.a. my real name. Now let's jump into the sponsors, shall we? Make sure to check out ChefKeithFoods.com for all of your salsa needs. The best made fresh since 2019. Flavors include Ragin' Reaper, Hoppin' Habanero, Groovy Garden, and more. Check out that website today. Also, check out our friends over at Superior Creations for all of your custom tumbler needs. They are on Facebook.com/Superior Creations MN. Also, Darren Corbin, give him a like on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok. Yes, Darren Corbin is on TikTok. And another great way to support Darren is by checking out patreon.com/Darren Corbin, where tiers start at just $1. Last but not least, make sure you give us a like and follow on all of our social medias as well. We want to thank you for being a friend of the Squared Circle. Tune in for more episodes. Also, if you want to get merch for yourself, you can check out friendsofthesquaredcircle.org for all of those needs. And it's your boy, Crander Q. Crander Q out.
What? No, it's not even mine. I just clicked on it.
I love that part.
That's awesome.